Hi, Tom.
Good morning, good evening. Hello, Rob.
Good morning and good evening. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
here. We're here in New York. It's 7:30 p.m. and you are in.
Tokyo at 8:30 a.m.
Awesome.
Do I
Good.
hear sirens in your background?
You do.
Okay.
There, there's
Yes.
always there's always
I
sirens in New York.
I was in a uh, small mall here 2 days ago, and in the back I saw it said international imports. So I walked over. Most of it was Korean items. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, for Japan, Korea is international. But they had a little corner of American, like Oreo cookies and stuff. And I got a little bit homesick for the New York home when I was looking at it. And then I said, oh, well, just leave here. So I left the international corner. You may hear in the background some singing, some bass, and right next door here is a jazz saxophone. What is that? Do you know that famous book, Charlie Parker book that has all his solos in it?
Oh yeah. Um,
Anyway, he's going through them. Uh,
okay.
so yeah, this is it's actually a karaoke place, but
Okay.
from 7 a.m. to 12 noon, you can get a rental room, a karaoke room. I'm in a room that would sit easily 6 people. And there's a big screen here, and the karaoke box is there, and the microphones. But it is with exchange rate, it's 14 cents an hour.
14 cents.
14 cents an hour. Now, the catch is for $3, you have to pay for unlimited coffee, tea, juice, and soft drinks. They call it a drink bar. No alcohol.
Right. Right.
So the $3 on top of the 14 cent an hour.
It's
Um,
seems
so
worth it to me.
cheaper than Starbucks, and most people can't practice in their apartments. And my old apartment I could practice. My new apartment I can't. This is maybe 7 or 8 minute walk from the apartment. So I come over here 7 o'clock and stay. Usually I do 3 hours or four, and it ends up being like $5 for the morning,
Oh wow.
and I get my coffee and practice.
Perfect.
And usually, this floor, there's 2 floors. In the morning, it's just musicians in here practicing because the hourly rate is so cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds
So,
good though, and you don't have to worry
oh,
about bothering anybody. You're doing all your stuff, and you just practice
no,
away.
and each room has its own climate control, so make it as hot or cold as you want. And, if you feel like singing, the karaoke box is right there, and and your coffee.
And your coffee.
And the coffee machine um, on top has the coffee beans. So when you press your selection, it grinds the beans
Oh, wow.
individually for each cup.
That's awesome.
I mean, I know it's crazy. And these are this. I'll give a shot. This is Manikineko. It's one of the big companies and they have these all over Tokyo. And there of course are other companies, but this one is the closest, and it's nice. At first, I felt a little uncomfortable coming into a karaoke room to practice, but
Right.
it's normal.
Hey,
So,
if it works, it works, right?
and you're not going to find a practice room anywhere else for 14 cents an hour.
No,
No.
I'm surprised. Hey, so I brought you on because I'd like to talk to you about the Queen's New Music Festival
Yeah.
and our participation of 15 Minutes of Fame on it. But let me talk to the audience quick. If anybody comes on and want to ask me or Tom question, please just type into chat. We'll be happy to answer anything. Tom and I are up for anything.
Yep. Ask away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tom. So why don't we start like a little intro for everybody? Who are you and what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah. I mean, everybody should know, but I've worked with you. Well, anyway, we've been colleagues for a long time, so I know everything you do. But
yes, yeah. Well, I play the clarinet. That takes up most of my time, and most of what I play, most of what I perform, is probably 90% of what I do is music written for me. And I'm very, very lucky to that. And that's been going on for years and years. And for the most part, it's all good. There's, as I've told you, maybe on there are of all the composers, and it's been well over 300 composers who've written me pieces. And I would say less than one hand, 5 composers who, I won't play their music again. So that's a lot of composers. I often tell composers, you write it and I will play it. And that's how it goes. I also play the hichiriki, which is a Japanese traditional instrument, been around 1,300 years. And I play both the traditional music, gagaku, and also having pieces written for that instrument. So we build the repertoire, the contemporary repertoire for that instrument. And I live in New York and in Tokyo for the last 20 years. As a matter of fact, it's August 1st. I realized August 5th, 2005 was my first trip to Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And 20 years. International Clarinet Association has a Clarinet Fest every year. It's in a different city each year. And in 2005, it was in Tokyo for the first time. And they invited me to play a concert of contemporary American music. And the first day and of course, this was before there were smartphones and internet and all of that good stuff. It was incredibly hard. The language barrier, not so many signs in English. But my first day here, I was like, oh, I really like this. What can I do to be here more? And started developing the relationships with composers because I realized basically no one is here in Japan is going to be interested in me playing Mozart or Brahms because there's plenty, and you can't, even worldwide, you can't make a living off of playing that solely. I'm not involved in academia or a university, so I'm on my own playing. So got involved with Japanese composers, and fortunately they liked me. And so for 20 years, back and forth. And I run a series or program called Tokyo to New York, which translates to Tokyo and New York, and go back and forth playing programs that consist mostly highlighting Tokyo composers and New York composers, and go back and forth doing them. And also am the, what is my title? Executive Director and Artistic Director of Random Access Music, which is a composer performer consortium. And under that, we have the Queen's New Music Festival. And that is run by RAM, and it's usually a 4 or 5 day festival, usually in May or June, and 8 or 9 concerts in those days. And thank you, Rob, for bringing in your 15 minutes of fame with dancers, because I think I had asked you to bring in like several of the 15 minutes of fame, because the concerts, guest artists, RAM artists, 1 hour concerts, and this would be perfect for several. And then you mentioned to bring in the dance element, which was great. And I hope you will come back again next year.
Of course.
Because it was such a great addition to the festival. The got so much feedback from audience and a lot of feedback from people who had been to this festival in the past, and they absolutely loved the addition of dance. And one thing I really like about 15 Minutes of Fame, whether it's just the music or music with dance, because I've done both now, is so much can be packed into a 1 minute piece. And for just the musicians and also for the dancers. And so you see in 1 minute all of this activity. And sometimes that activity can be almost no movement or very few notes. So activity doesn't mean that it's all fast stuff. But to see all of that put into 1 minute and then immediately you move on to the next one. It's not where you do 1 minute, you sit around and then you do it. No, it is boom, 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 boom. And it is so exciting to see it. And it's also nice I like adding dance to music. They're both very abstract, and you can make up your own story with what you're hearing and what you're seeing. It really was a great addition to the festival.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I always find it interesting to work like with multidisciplinary type stuff, but especially with dancers. I love their interpretation of new music. I think I don't think dancers are so used to collaborating with composers and new music on a regular basis.
Right.
Which is kind of strange to me. But on the opposite end, a lot of composers don't connect with dancers either. It's not really. So I like making those connections, and the interpretation is fantastic. Like you said, you never know what someone is going to sort of envision, and then create movement art out of it, right?
Right, because as far as I know, the dancers, the music is written first. And I mean, the one that I did, the music was written, I played it, and then later dancers took that recordings and then made their dances, and then we performed it live. So the dancers didn't work with the composers to bring about. The composers did not tell the dancers what this piece is unless it was in a program note. They have 1 minute to listen to and make up with their own. And when I did the pieces with dancers, it was really interesting to me to see what their interpretation of, and in the rehearsals, I would change some of my interpretation of the piece to sort of match or mix with what they were doing.
Right. Right. It would, because it becomes a new piece in a way, right?
Yeah.
So just to let everybody know, 15 Minutes of Fame is 15 1-minute works that are all written for a specific musician or an ensemble. We get a musician or ensemble on board, and then we put out a call for works. We have a pool of composers that write for that musician, and then they pick 15 pieces that they perform and premiere. They're all these pieces are written specifically for that person. Tom, you're a longtime veteran of 15 Minutes of Fame.
Yeah.
We counted it once before, but you've done 10 different sets, more than 10.
Oh, I don't let clarinet and piano, clarinet, cello, piano, clarinet and guitar, clarinet. Oh my goodness! Recent one, Hichiriki, and low flutes, which will premiere this fall,
Hmm.
meaning November 2025, in case someone's listening to this in the future.
Right.
Uh, and also a solo set of just Hichiriki
Right.
and just clarinet, which was great because the call was for solo clarinet or Hichiriki. And so many pieces came in for Hichiriki that I asked you, could I do two? Just solo clarinet and just solo Hichiriki.
Right.
And so, and to have more than 15 composers write a piece for Hichiriki, which is not the most well-known instrument in the world, was incredible. And last year played that set in Hanoi, which was, as I'm sitting there playing it, I'm going, this is for me very sort of out of body experience that an American in Hanoi playing contemporary pieces for this ancient Japanese instrument. It's like, how did this all happen? But I'm thrilled that it did. And I will be playing some of those pieces in September again in Hanoi.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, and there may have been other sets from the 15 Minutes of Fame. And one of the nice things is that some of those composers who I met with those 1 minute pieces and did not know ended up being friends and colleagues who we've gone on and written much bigger pieces and longer pieces. One is Masatora Goya, who I met through 15 Minutes of Fame and has since then written me many pieces for Japanese instruments and clarinet, including a clarinet concerto and also the world's first Hichiriki concerto. So that is, and that's just one of the composers amongst many. And that's one of the great things about 15 Minutes of Fame is meeting the composers and developing these relationships beyond the 1 minute.
Right.
And there are composers who repeatedly send in pieces of the 1 minute. And so I just have 1 minute relationships with these composers, and I am fine with that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think look, I think it's an awesome way to sort of connect and network. Is just I think we live in an age of where people submit and they want to be a winner, and to have the thing for the resume and do all this and so forth, and that's great and all, but yeah, I'm not big into winners and losers. I'm more into, it's a selection set of 15. It's the 15 that works in that sort of kind of mix, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
set. And they're not necessarily better or worse than other pieces. They're just the ones that work for that.
Right.
I always tell composers, like, try to write for them. They're like, well, and this and that. I'm like, no, you want to throw as many pieces. If you can write and you have the time, do it. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? It's only a minute. It's
Right.
and you get your name in there. You get a great musician like yourself. At least you take a look at it. And like you said, if all of a sudden we get a bunch of submissions, I can't tell you how many musicians have come to me and said, "Can we do 2 sets?"
Right. Right.
And I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know another project that does that.
Right.
Do you? Do you? I don't.
No, not that will add on because things were so good. Right. Yeah.
I've been trying to encourage composers. I'm just like, it can be good. It can be better.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the little behind the scenes, Alish Lindsay, who is playing the low flutes with me in the Hichiriki and low flutes set, we just, I don't know, a month ago, a few weeks ago, went through the selection process, and we just went through them, and some, very few were an instant, absolutely no. Um, and the no could be because they weren't really. Some of the no's were because they just were not written well for the hichiriki. It's a different type of instrument, and maybe it looked like an oboe piece instead of an hichiriki piece. So there were those. Others were could have been no because they were like so out of the range for the low flutes. But there were only a few of those that were just an instant no because of technical reasons. And then we went through them all. Some were, for both of us, an instant yes, 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 yes. So we're going down the list. Then we had our list of pieces because we needed the 15. And then it was sort of going back and forth. You like Lish going, no, 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 no. And I would be like, yes, yes, yes. And we were sort of balancing. But usually if Lish it was a hard no on hers, it's like, okay, fine. And if
Right.
mine was a hard no, that's fine. Some were just sort of juggling. And then we ended up, I remember we had like maybe 12. And then we had this longer list, and we needed to pick 3 from them. And
Right.
so that's when the hard part came in of those last few. And then you're like, okay, this one goes, and and so it was hard to finalize the 15.
Right.
And then we have our 15, and then we looked at it again to make sure. And we were, yes, we were in the same space. We did not do it over, the internet. We were in the same space, but she had her list, and then we're like reading back and forth to make sure that we both have the right 15 to give you,
Right.
and because that moment of we send it to you, we have to make sure that those are the 15 we want to perform,
Right.
and not a mistake in there. But it was fun. It was fun to sit with Lish and go through it. And then you end up with the 15. You're like, oh, this is going to be really exciting. Yeah.
It was a great call.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I'm excited for Hichiriki and Love Flute. It's going to be
I think it's going to be a great sound. Yeah.
yeah.
Lish and I have played, I believe, 1 or 2 pieces. I do remember one, a longer piece that was with Hichiriki and alto flute. And it was such a great sound. And so I'm looking forward to doing these 15 pieces with alto, bass, and I think there's some in there with contrabass. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
I love
yeah.
the contrabass flute. It's
I
fun.
know. Yeah.
So, let's so I'm excited about the Queen's New Music Festival. I love the festival. I mean, it's well, there's a lot of New York dynamics. But so Queens is like an up and coming sort of new borough for art and music and dance and all that. I would say you're one of the leaders of that sort of borough movement.
Yeah. For such a large borough in land mass and in number of people, I'm always surprised that there's not more activity going on that we know about. I mean, I'm in my own little world of contemporary music, and it's sort of that gravitates, of course, to Manhattan or to Brooklyn. And maybe because Queens is so big. I mean, you have Long Island City, which is close to Manhattan, and then you have Flushing, which is far away. Unless you take the 7 train, it's not so bad, but it is so spread out. And so I think that's one of the problems has been to find a centrality to it because there is no central space to it.
Right.
And there are also not that many performing spaces in Queens that are useful to live music or contemporary music, especially if you need a piano. So that's always been one of our problems, is finding an appropriate venue. And then that whole mental thing of getting people, because from, say, Manhattan or Brooklyn, to actually travel to Queens.
Sure.
For quite a few years, the festival was in Secret Theater in its original location, which was in very close to Court Street, and which is the first stop in Queens from Manhattan. And
Right.
people would go, "Oh my God, it's Queens!" And this was also before Long Island City had become so well known and built up.
Right.
So at one point I joked, I said, why don't we rename the festival First Stop? The First Stop in Queens Festival, because just so people would know, you get on the train in Manhattan. Now, if you're in Brooklyn, it's really difficult to get to Queens because you have to
It
do
is.
this. But it was
People
like,
don't understand that, but it's a whole
yeah,
loop.
it's like, it's the first stop. Yeah, because they think Queens. Um, And then before, right at COVID, then that would close down. Then we were in Plaxall, which is in Long Island City. Beautiful, beautiful space. And then we've been doing it the last few years at Secret Theater's new place in, what is that neighborhood called? Isn't that awful? I forget the neighborhood. Woodside.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Woodside, and wonderful old funky theater and great for new music. And again, it's one of those things where it's a few minute walk from the subway stop.
Right.
And yet still there's that mental thing of people not wanting to travel. Uh, but I'm in Hell's Kitchen, Times Square, and it's quicker for me to get to Woodside than it is to certain venues in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So,
It's actually really an easy commute to get there.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, and Queens New Music, that we try to focus on Queens-based musicians. It isn't specifically for that or completely for that. I mean, we've had international artists come in from all over, but when I'm looking to program the festival, my first choices are those artists, soloists, or groups that are based in Queens.
Right.
Even if they don't have a performance visibility in Queens, because like I said, there's very few venues. But that is my choice, is if they're artists that are based in Queens first, then we branch out from that.
Right. And yeah, so with the Queens New Music Festival, what is like kind of your mission and goal in order to present the festival?
The basic part of it, without getting into a long narrative that you'd have to write for a grant, is just the BS narrative. No BS for grant writing. No, it's all true. But just to bring together within 4 or 5 days new music, and that we do not make a definition for new music. We have not had rock and roll groups, but we have had jazz musicians. We've had tango. As long as these are, it's not a cover band. We're not doing a program of Piazzolla, even if it's a Tango Nuevo person. It's their music. Last year, a group that I play with in Tokyo, 3 of those members came, and that was a combination of jazz, pop, contemporary classical.
Okay.
'Cause some of the members are rock musicians, some were jazz musicians, some of us are contemporary classical, and we had five contemporary classical composers, and some of them are tango nuevo composers, to write us pieces, keeping in mind this sort of mix of pop and contemporary classical. And so, again, I don't put a definition on what is new, other than the word new. We're not playing, we're not playing Stockhausen. We're not playing these big names from the past. Yeah, we
Right.
just want new music. So, and like I said, we want to focus first on musicians that are based in Queens, and then work out from that. This year we had three different percussion groups
Okay.
that were based in Queens. And it looks like they were Hypercube, who comes every year. And thank you, Hypercube, for coming in. It's a great program they have. And then we had, what were their other? I don't want to make a mistake. Recap Quartet and
Okay.
Mantra Percussion. So those three, and it looks like they will be coming back for next year. And we will probably have a percussion day, percussion centered day,
Oh, nice.
which will be great. And also it's helpful for them because the logistical problem of loading in and loading out all that percussion equipment.
Yeah.
So if we can, we give them the theater for the day, do what you want, and often the groups will say, well, what do you want from us? I'm like, it's your hour. If I've invited you to do, I generally know sort of what it is you do, but it's your hour to do what you want.
Right.
I do not make demands on what they play. If I've invited them, I know what they are, what they do, who they are. And so it's your hour. You're free to do what you want with your hour.
So, and these Queens, are they Queens? These percussion groups, are they from Queens?
Yes. Yeah. Or some of the members live in Queens, so I consider if some of the members live in Queens, they're Queens based. A lot of times they rehearse in Queens. They have the rehearsal space in Queens, and they're affiliated with Hypercube, which is percussion, piano, accordion, electric guitar, and maybe he plays acoustic guitar sometimes, so I don't want to make a mistake, and saxophone. So there's sort of an umbrella organization, and then the others come in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, we've worked for so many years now. I'm like, this seems like a silly question, but so this Queen's New Music Festival, you weren't a performer playing 15 Minutes of Fame. You're the director telling us where to go and what to do. So have you seen 15 Minutes of Fame with other performers? You have. Oh, plenty of times.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Of course, this was the first time I had seen it live with dancers. I had seen it a couple of times, the streaming with dancers. Of course, I had played it with dancers, but yeah, this was the first time I'd been actually in the audience to watch it live, and that was a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Did you? Yeah. So what did you like? How did you think of how it went? I mean, because as a musician, I always tell everybody, when you're a musician and so forth, you're performing, so you're focused on your role in the thing.
Right.
It's hard to see the whole picture.
Well, it was exciting for me. One thing was I did not know the pieces. These were toy piano. Everything was toy piano, right? Yes.
Mhm.
So I didn't know the pieces. I knew some of the composers, but I didn't know what they wrote. And I knew some of the dancers because some of the same dancers that I had worked with. But it was so nice to sit there and see what's coming and take it in the moment. And like you said, like a piece, hate a piece, love a piece, it's done and you're on to the next one.
Right.
And it builds this sort of excitement. I know when I've done the 15 minutes of fame, in those 15 minutes in my head, I have sort of a story or an arc, and it's easy. Okay, I want to start with this piece, I want to end with this, and then you start building it. So it feels like a journey. It's not just random pieces. I mean, in my head, for the audience, it can still seem random, but it was exciting. It was exciting to see that. Uh, I generally don't like to read program notes. I don't generally like to hear composers talk about their music or a performer talk about their music before they play it. I mean, that's just me.
Right.
I don't want to be told what to listen for, what to listen to, or what to feel. If I'm that interested in a piece, uh, then I can go find the program note.
Right.
And I just want to hear it, experience it in the moment, and have my own feeling or no feeling. I mean, I can, whatever. That is mine, and to me, that's very personal. I recently, well, it's a few months ago, went to a concert where the conductor told the audience what to listen for in the piece
Right.
coming up. Um, I was like, well, why are you telling us this? And then it went a step further because the conductor told us what to feel.
Right.
And I thought that is a step too far. It is none of your business to tell me what to feel when I am listening to music. That is absolutely my business, what I feel.
Right. He can
Um,
tell us what he feels.
oh, absolutely. That's his business. I mean,
Right.
and I may not, I mean, I'm not interested what he feels before the performance. I mean,
Right.
after the performance, fine. Or if it's written down, that's where I don't want to see program notes. I will take it in the moment and feel or not feel whatever. So that was one of the exciting things about this is I didn't read anything about the pieces. I mean, nothing. It just came to me in the moment, and there were no program notes.
Right.
And so the audience were all sitting there watching it in the moment, not being told what to look for in the dance or what the choreographer had been thinking of, nothing. And this time, correct me maybe, the there was a choreographer for each of these 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, because usually the dancers choreograph their own piece or they have someone choreograph it for them.
That's right.
And
That's
this
yeah.
time, all 15 pieces were choreographed by the same person.
Nope. No. 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 No.
No, okay,
All
okay.
separate. Yeah. 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 I There's usually Rachel Kosh. She's
Right?
the sort of dance director and macro choreographer. So she makes the order and hands out the pieces, and sort of from her experience of the performers that she knows, she allocates the pieces to, and in that way.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, just like the musician makes the arc of the music. So
Right. Yeah.
that's the yeah. I mean, that's a big point. I think a lot of people don't realize it's important how the order goes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was, although there was one, maybe it was the solo clarinet one. I do know there was one where I could not figure out an order. I sort of knew what I wanted to start and end with, and I was just going, oh, okay, just for the hell of it, I'm doing it in alphabetical order. And but what was interesting, it worked. Even though, I mean, it seemed kind of lazy on my part, but I had put the work in trying to figure out an order, and I
Right.
couldn't. So, and to me, it still worked in its alphabetical order.
Well, there is a unique thing about the format that does it. But there's the point, right? It's the work in doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I used to. I actually just recently, in fact, a couple days ago, did a new 60 by 60 mix.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, that was I have a project out in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, and they do a 60 by 60 dance every year. So I have 60 mixes from all my projects. So they've been just going through them each year for about 10 years, in fact.
Yeah.
So forth. But
Yeah.
now, anyway, they've gotten to a point where they needed a new one. So I was like, oh, I'll do a new one. And I forgot how rigorous the selection process is.
Right. Wow.
And it's a process. And you could do it randomly too. Let's put, like, there was a point in this mix. I probably shouldn't say this, but yeah, where I pretty much had most everything except for like 5 pieces. And then realized, like, oh, I need to just randomly put those 5 pieces throughout the mix.
Right.
That's like as an interlude, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But 60 is a lot.
Yeah.
That's
It's fun. They're every once in a while somebody goes, oh, we could just do it random. I was just like, that works for about 15 minutes.
right. Right. Yeah.
And then you lose your audience. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, another thing. Can you tell me about the Gagaku trio?
This is Gagaku Trio, the 3 winds, so Sankan, which literally translates to 3 pipes. So, because we are playing pipes, and it's the Hichibiki, which I told you about, the Yuteki, which is the ancient Japanese flute, and then the Sho, which is the sort of mouth organ with its 17 pipes. Mm-hmm. And the 3 of us, Fabio Rambelli, Lish Lindsay, and myself, we've all studied Gagaku here in the United States and also in Japan. And we all play Gagaku, but we also all play contemporary music written for these instruments. And those 3 are the 3 main instruments of Gagaku. No insult to the percussion or the koto, but those are the 3 main voices. And so there are some pieces already written, contemporary pieces written for those 3 instruments. And then I've been going around getting composers to write us pieces for those 3 instruments and doing programs that are just the contemporary music, although I always put in at least 1 traditional piece. So you hear the audience, first off, it's fun to play. Mm-hmm. And the audience hears pretty much the same sound that people would have been hearing 1,300 years ago when it came into being, and 200 years ago, and 500 years. The instruments have pretty much not changed in how they're made or the materials that they are made of in those 1,300 years. The Gagaku music has pretty much not changed. And so that's the beauty of studying it. It's been passed down through all these generations. And there are times when these Gagaku pieces, to our Western ears, sound as contemporary and as far out as anything a living composer could write. The intonation, it's not Western intonation or intervals. So you get all these incredible sounds from the traditional music. And then it's nice to find composers who are interested in that sound, or they're interested in the instruments, and ask them to write these pieces and see. It's very interesting to see what they come up with. And there are, I have a web page that talks about how to write for the Hichiriki. There are other resources for the other two instruments. And it's interesting to see what the composers take from that. Some composers, as usual, will be working with us, like send us a snippet, a measure here, a measure there. Does this work? Does that work? And some composers just deliver us the finished piece. And it's back in, I think it was March or April of this year, where we did a full program of, I don't know, 7 or 10 pieces that were written for the instruments, and also played one contemporary piece. And some of them sound very close to the Gagaku sound and the Gagaku music. And some of them really are abstract contemporary classical pieces, but they are using these instruments. And I know it's a challenge for the composers, and each of the composers tell me what a challenge it is to write. And some of them had never heard Gagaku, had never heard these instruments before. So that was exciting. Some knew Gagaku, knew the instruments, had written me pieces, or Lish and me. And so it's exciting to build this repertoire. The three of us deeply respect the tradition of the instruments and the tradition of Gagaku, but we also find it's important to keep the music alive, living composers, and new music for these instruments. We're not trying to replace the past. And I find with my Hichiriki playing, the more I study Gagaku, the better my playing is in the contemporary pieces, because I'm adding more and more of those ancient sounds and inflections into the pieces. I'm not trying to play like an oboe. I'm not trying to turn the Hichiriki into a Western instrument. So there's this great mix. It's a challenge for me. I mean, these pieces, to play contemporary music on these instruments is not easy. We don't have keys. They're not chromatic instruments. So it is a huge challenge, and I'm so thrilled that Lish and Fabio and some other players are willing to take on the effort and the love to make these instruments work for this new music.
And I think, like, it's also, why don't you describe a little bit? Writing for these instruments and Gagaku and stuff it's not like old violins and Bach, right? I mean,
No, yeah,
new music for the Gagaku is kind of a thing.
yes, yeah. It is new music for Gaga. It is new because Takamitsu wrote for these instruments, but not much more before him and very little after him. and especially outside of Japan, it's very rare for people to hear these instruments, either playing gagaku or konterme outside of Japan. So it's thrilling to be able to bring this music to New York. And last year, the year before, we were in Europe, the three of us. And like I said, I'm in Hanoi playing these solo pieces. The for the Hichiriki, the big thing, of course, is tuning. And if composers are obsessed with Western tuning and Western intonation, I often tell that if that is their obsession, then they probably should not be writing for these instruments. Although we can play in Western tuning and we can play in tune with Western tuning. We have a recording out, the three of us, and there's one piece I often will send composers to if they're really worried about that. And it's by Masatora Goya. It's called Onibi. And we do add gagaku inflections, but there are times in there, because it's all written out, and there will be triads and there will be unisons, and they are absolutely in tune. It's harder for us, the players, to do that, but if that's what's written, that's what's asked of us, it can be done. And so, again, for the Hichiriki, the tonal inflections, and I often say the best thing and worst thing about the instrument is its tonal and pitch inflections, with just the least amount of pressure with my lips. I can get the Hichiriki to go up or down a major third and going down even further. And so in that way, it's incredibly expressive. But if you're writing something that is very chromatic or very specific in its pitches, someone wrote something and he said it was 12 tone in a 12 tone row. And so very, very specific in its pitches. And it was very difficult. And the faster it was, the more difficult to find those pitches and land on them, because he did not want the gagaku inflections. He did not want scoop or no, he wanted absolute pure pitches using the Hichiriki.
Right.
And so that's, I could have told him no. No, because it's not easy. But it was like, if I decided to play it, then that is my job, to play it the way he wrote it. Yeah.
Right. And plus, part of it's just the experience, right?
Experience for who? The composer or me?
The composer, you, and the audience.
And
right?
the audience, yes.
Because I always tell everybody, it's just like, you go to a concert, especially of new music, and I always say you're probably not going to like everything.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which is okay. It's okay. You don't need to like it and so forth, but you never know what you might find along the way. Me particularly, I don't know if putting a 12-tone row for a Hichiriki is an experiment that I would want to do. But
right. Yeah.
I appreciate the effort, right?
Right.
Yeah. I especially you, Tom.
Now as you see me, I'm scrolling through I will not name any name, but the concert we did, and it was in April. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There were 11 new pieces. Oh, wow. And we played one traditional piece. And what was interesting to me was there were Certain pieces I absolutely loved. And there was, and I will not name, there was one piece I just did not like. And I really don't remember why. And it wasn't that it was poorly written for the instruments. It's just, I just didn't think the piece worked. Then we get into rehearsal, and the other two performers had differing opinions. And then the piece that I really did not like, the audience really liked it. And I'm and as when you're playing a piece, sometimes you can tell while you're playing it, the audience perception. But
Right.
then, especially afterwards, the applause or people talking to you afterwards. And so it was a nice surprise. Um, I still don't like the piece,
Right.
but I know if we play it again, I still won't. I can't imagine I will ever like the piece,
Right.
but it does help knowing that it works for the audience. And I don't want to speak for the other two performers because I don't remember if they liked it or not. We all, it's 11 pieces. We all have our differing opinions. And but it does help to know, okay, we play this piece again. Audience is going to like it. So, and that's a good thing. So, and I know there is one of the pieces um, was my absolute favorite, and I see that I am on my side. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes. Can you see if you can just turn it and see if it?
I didn't touch anything,
No,
but
no.
let's see what happens. Now we're upright, and let's see what happens now.
There we go.
Okay, yeah. Um, it's absolute. I mean, by far my favorite piece in of those pieces. Again, no names mentioned, and it is not the favorite piece of the other two players. No, they liked it, but they did not share the love that I had for the piece. So that to me is always interesting. Yeah, and
Well,
again, where it's got yeah,
I mean that's part of the gig too, right?
right, yeah,
You know, it's that's your craft and artistry to bring out the music.
right. And
Uh,
like I said, the piece that I do not like, um, I still try my hardest as a player to play what is written and what the composer is wanting. It's not that I'm sitting back and just, giving 50% of myself because I hate the piece. No,
right,
I feel like it's my responsibility to play all the pieces with the same type of commitment.
right.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people that, and I've had disagreements with people over the years about, I do not have to feel something to play something.
Right.
Um, First off, I mean, with 11 pieces in an hour, I can't feel everything. Um, if I feel, oh, this is a happy moment or this is a sad moment. My job is to try to evoke those feelings in the audience, if that is what the composer wants.
Right.
And also, certain pieces that are abstract, I might think, oh, this is happy or sad for the extremes. Again, it's not my job to tell the audience what to feel or how to feel.
Right.
Uh, so, like I said, the piece I don't like, I put the same energy and commitment into the piece that I absolutely love.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, maybe the only difference is that the piece I love, I wish was longer. So, yeah,
well, I think it's a great point. So I'm I'm a singer, and I've sang in a lot of choirs and some opera and stuff like that, and I do my contemporary stuff. Um, and you're up there always doing the best you can do. You're trying to convey this, that, and so forth. Um, and yes, the piece has a particular emotion and so forth. You're trying to convey it, and that's you want to. The idea is to communicate that to the audience. You're bringing it across, and then there are those moments, right, that are unique, right? There's transcendent, but you can never predict where they come or where they go, or it either happens or it doesn't.
Right.
The I wait. I've got a comment from somebody. This is she's hi Umi.
Hi.
She's saying that certain pieces grew in her, and she became to switch from hate to liking them.
Good.
Yeah.
I look forward to changing my hate to love, or at least like down the road.
It's true though. You do grow like new appreciations for pieces and works, especially depending. Like for me, talking about 15 Minutes of Fame with dance. I also have personal favorites and things I like and pieces I've heard, and I have my preferences of styles and aesthetics too. And then you'll see it in a different context, either with dance or a performance by a player that plays it in an unexpected way,
Right.
and you grow to to see the piece in a different light or a different vein, and that's great. Yeah, so another call out to anybody if they have questions or comments and so forth, please feel free to ask Tom and I. And yeah, Tom, well, so first of all, let's just thank you. I appreciate you coming here to talk. We're for everybody out there, we're just having a little sit down for some editing material for Composer's Voice.
Yeah.
Composer's Voice is now a TV show on cable access.
Right.
Doing that thing. Tom was playing for Composer's Voice back when we were doing bi-weekly shows at Jan Hus Church.
Yeah.
We did a lot there. Yeah, and Tommy, it's great to have you.
Well, always good to talk to you, and always good. I mean, maybe people who are watching, or especially, we're talking to the converted, those who have an interest in new music or a love for new music, whether it's composers, performers, or audience. I was just at the International Clarinet Association Clarinet Fest in Dallas, Fort Worth. And I'm the chair of the New Music Committee. And I had prepared this little opening speech about basically the importance of new music. Because I think new music by living composers is important. I mean, yes, there is the practical, the logistical part. That is how I make my living, by doing this. So if composers start writing, then I'm going to have to play Mozart, and I love Mozart, but it probably won't pay my rent. I mean, those are the practical things. But I was giving this spiel about the importance of it, of keeping what we do alive as performers and composers. And again, like you said, not every piece is good, not every piece is great, but it's still important to perform these pieces and bring them into the world of what we do. And as I had written this whole thing out, and I looked around at the people who were at the round table, square table as it was, I looked around and I realized these were all new music people.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, well, I don't really need to tell you people how important it was. I was expecting most of the people at Clarinet Fest are in academia, the college professors, the students. I wanted to preach and proselytize to those college professors who help their students program music. And why is someone in a senior recital or a graduate concert for their master's or why are they doing 5 pieces that were all written in the 1800s or the 1900s? Why isn't there at least one new piece? And even more exciting, why isn't there something by a student composer from your school? I mean, those are easy things to do.
Right.
They're less easy when you get outside of academia and you're trying to program concerts. I run into presenters and producers who do not want all my new music stuff in their programs. But you're in school. This is a safe place to experiment and be curious. And so that was my whole thing about to educators. Is like, why? My when I see programs, often my first question is why? Why are these pieces, and why not these other pieces? Why is there a lack of curiosity about the present, the new? Because I'm living. These composers are alive. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing what is new and from living people. Otherwise, we can go and listen to recordings of dead people, performers, and all of that. So it's our responsibility to keep the music alive and the art, and to move it forward.
Right. And it's so funny. I was listening to you how you were talking about how the new pieces that are written for you for Hichuriki like improve and help your performance of traditional gagaku, right?
Yes.
And the interesting thing about that, if like for me, is like, of course it would, right? I mean, besides, you've got to work with a living composer, and they're feeling out these new things because you don't have the original composers of the music, right?
Right.
You can't ask them and so forth. But when you start talking to like a living composer, they can be like, oh, this is you find different insights in the compositional process, right? I mean, so as a musician, you would think that this would be kind of a no-brainer to teach students, right? Because you're going to learn insights into Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart and so forth because there's a living composer that needs to get A, B, and C done.
Right.
Because Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, they had to do it too.
Right.
And they accomplished it. And like I obviously accomplished it because those pieces are successes, right? That's why they're here. But it's I think for musicians, they forget that like when you're learning from the past, you're only playing the successes.
Right.
Bach and Beethoven and Mozart had failures too. They crumpled up the papers.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. They had that stuff. Yeah, yeah. More. What do you say to like the audiences who aren't familiar with new music?
What do I say? Aren't familiar.
Because like the Queen's New Music Festival isn't just playing to, the choir.
Then I recommend them, especially with the internet and all the access we have to music, is to be curious, to search out new music, or if they may not know, like, oh, what should I listen to? Which pieces, which compose? Then ask someone, or Google is your friend, and you could ask, Google, give me the top 10. I mean, it's a horrible thing, the top 10 new music composers,
Right.
or what are the sites for living women composers? What are the sites for living BIPOC composers? Or just living composers? And
Or subscribe to Vox Novus.
and you will find hundreds, literally hundreds of composers. And, most names have the little link, and listen to it. YouTube is a great thing. And listen. If you have time, you can listen to 1 minute. And I do the same thing. I'm always looking for new music. I'm always looking for new composers. And you listen to 1 minute and you go, nope, move on to the next. Or you go, okay, I'll listen a little bit longer. And just like you would with rock or pop or jazz, hopefully to have a little patience and a little curiosity. And like you said, you're not going to like everything. You're not going to like every style of new music. But just be curious enough to go out there and spend some time listening.
You'll find something.
You'll find something. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, Tom. Well, thank you so much. I think it's time to let you go so you can start your day. I know you've got your coffee still, and
Yeah, well, it's done, but coffee machine's right over there. Yep, I'll keep practicing. Yep, I'm working on, I think it's 7 new pieces for duo clarinet concert coming up in early September in Tokyo, and also some of the new pieces for Hichiriki to play in Vietnam, which still, even though I've done it now, it still seems very interesting to me. It's some of it is emotional. Being I was a kid and in getting into my later teenage years when that war between the U.S. and Vietnam was going on. I had a cousin who was wounded several times and kept going back. And to go to Hanoi and you see the monuments to their war that they won with the Chinese and Americans invading them, and leaving politics out, which are from 50 and 60 years ago, but you see their monuments, or you see in a pond the back end of a B-52 bomber, and the monuments to go see where John McCain was held prisoner. And yet that's history and that's politics, but the love of the people that I feel there, and to be there as an American and to be accepted as a musician there, and then to be playing this 1,300-year-old instrument. It's all like this. This is what I do, and this is part, a big part of what I love about what I do.
Well, thank you, Tom. We love
Okay,
you.
thank you, and enjoy your evening. And anyone watching, thanks for tuning in.
Pleasure to have you.
Okay.
And, until next time.
Until soon, probably.